There's a lot of things to consider when you're building your own cabinets, whether that's for your garage or shop space, or actually something for the kitchen or utility room. But this is kind of my stream of consciousness version of all the little details that I think about when I'm building cabinets. So what kind of tools might you need for a big project like this, and a spotlight on a special technique or two. So let's get into it, starting with the face frames. Typically I like to gang my cabinet boxes together and then add one large face frame for a custom look. And when you do that, it requires a lot of clamps to add that face frame. So certainly brad nail it in place here and there, but what I found super helpful is clamping cauls just to get a really good joint between the face frame and the cabinet box. And the advantage there, you can get good even clamping pressure along an entire section with just 2 clamps. These are phenolic cauls that woodpeckers used to make. I don't think they make them anymore, but it'd be pretty easy to make a set of these yourself. My basic cauls are just pieces of oak, and they need to have a slight convex shape to them. Put that side down and clamp both ends. That way you'll get good even pressure. And thinking about your order of operations, I always like to drill those shelf pin holes before the individual cabinets go together. That way I can flip them to make it a little easier to drill those holes. Then you can take a second and fill any of the little nail holes you might have, or if a joint didn't come out perfect. I like a really lightweight putty like this one from Sherwin-Williams. Seems to work pretty good and dries quickly. Just leave that a little bit high so you can come back and quickly sand that flush. So you'll certainly need a way to break down sheet goods when building cabinets. Everything comes in a 4x8 sheet, so a track saw is great, but even a circular saw with a good straight edge will work. A lot of times I'm just breaking sheets in half and then taking them over the table saw for further refinement there. I love to have something to hold the plywood into the rip fence, like these Jessom stop guides, or even smaller pieces. It works well if you have feather boards, like a magnetic feather board works great, but definitely have plenty of push pads and devices around that will give you the best chance of a nice straight cut. But even with the best technique, you'll occasionally develop an issue where there's a slight concave surface or a bow, just because you're ripping strips all from one edge of the same board. So sometimes the jointer is the perfect tool to reestablish a straight edge, and then you can go back to work ripping the rest of your strips at the table saw. Another absolutely essential tool for me is a good crosscut sled. I like one with a flip stop or other system that lets you get repeated cuts that are the exact same length. After all, you don't just need 1 or 2 rails for your cabinet doors, you need a bunch. And for accurate sized doors, everything needs to be the same length. So this is really important to have a system like this, particularly if it can cut panels up to 24 inches wide. Well, we've got all the parts cut for those 6 cabinet doors we need, and now it's time to cut that groove in all the parts. And for that, I've switched over to a full kerf combination blade, and I'll just make 2 passes, one from each face, until we get a nice 1/4 inch wide groove. And it seems simple, but most people, when they first try to do this, they'll make a single cut, and then they'll knock the rip fence over a bit, and they'll try to establish that centered cut on their own, and it's always a little bit askew. Instead, it's much easier just to make the same cut from both sides, and that way when you adjust the rip fence, you'll just slightly get a wider and wider groove each pair of passes, but every time it'll be centered. So that's hugely important to wind up with cabinet doors that are going to be useful for your project. The other lesson there is the type of blade you use. Some people will try to get by with a thin kerf, alternating bevel type blade, and I really have had better luck switching to a full kerf blade, particularly a combination blade that has some flat raker teeth. It'll give you a nice flat bottom groove. Well, there's certainly a lot of blade changes when it comes to cabinet building, but next we'll go with the Dado Blade. It's an 8-inch set, and I'll show you which one I like best. And I've tested quite a few. I think I've tried just about every Dado blade on the market. So I go with the Infinity Datonator XL. It has kind of these wagon wheel style blades on it. You can use whatever Dado blade you like, but the idea is just to set up a full 3/4 inch stack. The neat thing about this particular set is I can do that in just 4 blades. One joinery technique you'll use all the time with cabinet making, especially when you're building cabinet doors, is a stub tenon and groove joint. Basically the idea, you're using that dado blade, and by specifically setting the height, you'll establish a nice fit between a short stub tenon and the matching groove. Just a perfect way to put together your cabinet doors, and I've found the results are quite sturdy. The shape and style of the cabinets for me really determines the overall look of the project, and so if you want to have nice wide cabinet doors, that'll have one look. Otherwise, if you have doors that are much taller than they are wide and you have two of them sitting side by side to fill that space, it gives you a nice shaker look or an arts and crafts feel sometimes. But another key element of how you design your cabinets to me is whether there's actually a vertical face frame that divides two cabinet doors. Sometimes you'll want that vertical element between two doors for a look like that with a little bit wider spacing. Sometimes that'll limit access to the cabinet, make it even difficult to put in those shelves, but that's just a design consideration to think about. For me, it's just a matter of thinking about what type of shelving I want. If I want a basic edge-banded shelf that otherwise wouldn't be too sturdy, sometimes I'll include that vertical element so I can drill another row of shelf pinholes in the back to support that shelf. One thing I really like about that is it makes inserting these adjustable shelves quite a bit easier if you don't have that vertical element. And I love the fact that with custom cabinets you can build them however you want, like this custom charging cabinet in my shop. There's a lot of great looks you can come up with for your cabinet doors, but luckily shaker style doors are quite popular, and that's great if you're a woodworker because these are also the easiest style of door to build. But you will have to make a decision as to what the center panel is made of. Those might be solid wood panels, or 1/4 inch panel is real typical if you are buying pre-made cabinets. But since you're making your own, you might as well step that up to a 1/2 inch plywood panel. And that's great because it just gives you a solid feel on your doors, and you wrap your fingers on it, it doesn't feel hollow. It does require an extra step though, just to rabbet the edge until it fits the groove, and that's something I'm always willing to do for a sturdier feeling door. And once it's time for glue up, you can glue the entire length of that plywood panel, something you wouldn't want to do if it was a solid wood panel just because of wood movement, but this is a nice way to go to glue the whole thing in and just get a rock solid door as the final result. You want to make sure that everything stays flat, of course, as you glue things up, but you'll be rewarded by nice looking cabinet doors that are just about ready to install. And then just a section I'm calling special considerations. These are things I've encountered while building cabinets, and sometimes there's just a decision you need to make and figure out which way is best for you. You'll also need to decide how to edge the shelves in your cabinet project. You could use a simple edge banding, but I always like to use a hardwood strip just to stiffen up those shelves and make sure they don't bow over time. Another design decision you'll need to make is if you want to trim this little lip flush between the face frame and the cabinet box. I usually leave that overhang if it's going to be abutted to another cabinet, but if this is just a finished corner, I'll go ahead and trim that flush. That way I can come back and round over that sharp edge, and it'll give this cabinet a little more of a full custom look. So some things to think about if you're considering building your own cabinets, whether that's just utility cabinets out in the garage, or whether you really want to make something with a nice painted finish that you could put in a utility room or kitchen. I think it's very doable for most woodworkers, so long as you consider some of the tools and techniques that you might need to be aware of. I'm big on information and video resources, so at any time drop down to the description box. There you'll find all my basic cabinet building videos, like how to build drawer boxes, how to build shaker style doors, or even specialty techniques like locking rabbets to build really sturdy drawers. If you like today's topic, give me a quick thumbs up. I always appreciate that, and do consider subscribing to the Thoughtful Woodworker channel. Spoiler alert, you might also see some videos on how to sew leather with an industrial sewing machine. Wicked cool.